Madam President, today, I, along with Senator Leahy, Senator McCaskill, and Senator Blunt, will introduce the reauthorization of the Emmett Till Unsolved Civil Rights Crimes Authorization Act. A little bit of history for my colleagues on this. This really stems from 1955. And it was the summer of 1955 when a young 14-year-old left Chicago, Illinois, and traveled to Mississippi to visit friends. And while on that trip, he made a grave mistake. He whistled at a white woman. And because of that, Emmett Till was killed. And the investigation that led into his death culminated with a 67-minute deliberation by a jury that found both men, and they acquitted them. Both individuals, Roy Bryant and J.W. Milam, confessed to the murder in 1956. In our criminal justice system, when you've been found not guilty, you can't be retried. And there was an injustice that was done. In this particular case, the injustice was done to Emmett Till, a 14-year-old. And without an understanding of how many people might have been affected by the same lack of justice applied equally, there was a self-taught individual that became an activist. His name was Alvin Sykes. And Alvin Sykes became a civil rights advocate. He was a cold case researcher. And through the frustration of trying to get a bill through the United States Senate that my good friend Tom Coburn held up, Alvin Sykes did what most people don't do in this town. Rather than hold a press conference and talk about a civil rights bill, he called Tom Coburn and said, "I'd like to come see you." And he sat down with Tom Coburn, and Tom said, "What is it you're trying to do?" And the two bonded at that point, and they rewrote that bill to reflect what Tom thought was the right legislative approach to create in this country, and fund, I might add, an effort to look back at all potential civil rights cases that were pre-1969. And since the bill's passage, I think in 2008, the Department of Justice, along with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, along with local law enforcement, has gone through almost 200 cases. And I might add that 5 are still opened, and 1, they found a reason to convict an individual. In the year 2000, from a case pre-1969. So let me say for my colleagues, we will introduce a bill to reauthorize this act. Why? It's very simple. Because just last year, the Syracuse Cold Case Justice Initiative, Syracuse University, has identified 196 potential cases that weren't caught when the Justice Department and the FBI looked at their cold case files. Now, when Tom and Alvin Sykes put this legislation together, they funded the effort with a mere $10 million. And with that $10 million, it created an effort within the Justice Department and the Civil Rights Division and in the FBI. And what we found is that it's never too late to go back and fix mistakes that you make. So I'll ask my colleagues at some point in the not too distant future, probably unanimous consent, to pass the Emmett Till Unsolved Civil Rights Crime Reauthorization Act of 2016. And what this does differently than what the original piece of legislation did that Tom Coburn and Alvin Sykes hammered out, it reauthorizes for the existing offices within the FBI and Department of Justice, more clearly delineates the responsibility of the Deputy Crime Chief of DOJ's Civil Rights Division, and provides for a joint task force for enhanced collaboration. It eliminates the pre-1970 date and says if the law was applied unequally, doesn't matter when it was, we should look at it. It eliminates the sunset on the Emmett Hill law. Therefore, this is a permanent piece. Requires the Department of Justice and FBI to consult with civil rights organizations, universities, and other entities where we can reach out and pull in potentially any other cases that should be reviewed. Requires the Department of Justice to reopen certain cold cases that merit prove a second review is necessary, and it maintains the current funding levels. A very worthy bill to support. And as much as I'd like to really make my comments about Emmett Till, I could fill in a number of potentially different names. But the name I want to come to the floor and talk about is Alvin Sykes. Alvin Sykes, a self-taught civil rights advocate, person that taught himself how to do these investigations into civil rights cases. A guy that is passionate about trying to bring justice to individuals that are no longer here. We're lobbied on Capitol Hill all the time by people that have an interest. It could be personal, it could be professional, in a particular issue. Alvin Sykes had nobody lobby him. They were dead. Alvin Sykes saw a potential injustice in our judicial system and spent a lifetime passionately pursuing how he, as one individual, could make this right. Madam President, this is a tremendous success story about something that Congress has done that's good. What we need to do is extend the good work of Tom Coburn, and more importantly, the passion of Alvin Sykes, to say not only was this needed then, it's needed now and into the future. So I come to you today just to give you a preview before this bill is dropped, to thank my co-sponsors, Senator Leahy, Senator McCaskill, Senator Blunt, but more importantly, to thank Alvin Sykes. Without Alvin Sykes' passion and commitment, this injustice wouldn't have been brought to the attention of Tom Coburn, and Tom Coburn wouldn't have used his incredible passion to pass this bill originally. It is my hope that we can make not only Alvin Sykes proud of the work of the United States Senate, but in what small way it might send a message to those who are related to Emmett Till and to the hundreds of others that might have been served in injustice, that their relatives can understand that they did have value, and that value is for others, that they might not be exposed to an injustice in the future. I thank the President for her patience. I yield the floor.